across the oceans till we found the American dream.
Thanks for tuning in. My name is Ingrid Lemme, and this is my show, American Dream. A show about people, their hopes, their dreams, their family heritage, and their unbelievable realities. And my guest today is somebody who I actually don't need to introduce, so whatever. However, I will do so, Mr. Ed Lowe.
Thank you. Curb your enthusiasm.
If you do not know Ed, you probably don't like to read.
Yeah, I'm the darling of the literate.
Yep. Ed Lowe, a columnist, an author, a writer, a humorist, a musician.
Yeah, you know, that's how I got through school.
A husband.
Well, no, I'm not very good at that. I'm a documented failure at that, twice.
And
I'm a good friend, a good father. I play the guitar fairly well. I write fairly well. I'm an honest man. I'm a good uncle. But I have papers that say that I can't do more than 16 years as a husband and I fall off the edge.
Okay, well, you did 16 years of that. Ed Lowe, on the American Dream Show, we are starting with family heritage. We are trying to find out, where did your ancestors come from? That's the moment when we make everybody equal. Unless yours are Native Indians, well, then they were already here.
No, I describe myself as a recovering Irish Catholic.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
But my family is from, my father's father was from a little dreary market town in County Down in Ireland, Northern Ireland, between Bainbridge and Belfast, called Dromore. He was a machinist in a linen factory. And my mother's family is largely from Derry, which is another northern province.
So all Irish he is.
Yeah, and what's fun about that is that because I have black hair and brown eyes and a big broken-looking nose, and no one assumes that. They, you know, Irish are supposed to be fair-skinned, fair complexion, blue-eyed, and have red hair. You know, what can I tell you? It goes back generations.
Yeah. Oh, to be honest, I thought a little Russian maybe, or... No,
I don't. Well, you know, I met, years ago, I met a lawyer. I was speaking to the Brehon Society, which is a society of judges and lawyers concerned about justice in Northern Ireland. And I had just returned from Northern Ireland. I was in Belfast. I talked to the Sinn Féin people. And so they asked me to speak. And this guy came up to me, and he said, it was very disappointing. He said, he was a little guy, he said, "I bet you don't remember who I am."
Yeah.
So it clicked. I said, "Your name is Neil Abelson, you're a lawyer, and you were instrumental in the founding of the incorporated village of Lake Grove."
You cannot be serious.
And I wanted him to say, "Wow, that's impressive." And he said, "Well, I bet you didn't know I was a top genealogist." So I said, I didn't know it was a competitive trade.
Oh my God.
So where do you find my grandmother before somebody else does? Yeah. But he was married to an Irish woman, her name was Maureen, and he had researched her ancestry. And during the course of it, he said to me, he says, "What did your great-grandfather do in Northern Ireland?"
Yeah.
I said, "He was a machinist in a linen factory."
Ah!
I said, "How would you know that?"
Yeah.
And he tells me that the linen industry in Northern Ireland was founded or started by two Jewish families. The textile family was named Jaffe, J-A-F-F-E.
Yeah.
And there was a rabbinical family named Lowe.
Oh.
Now, who knew?
But he was certainly a very informed man.
Oh, yeah.
My God.
And he was not going to be impressed by my memory either.
Oh, my goodness, he was.
But so, you know, my father's grandmother was Mary Luby. She came to the States from Tipperary. Her older sister had passage at 18 and at the last moment declined to go. So Mary was 14. She said, "I'll go."
Yeah.
And she married Big Bill Collins, who was a cop in New York City.
I love it.
They had 5 daughters. One of them was Kate Collins. Kate Collins married Patrick Leonard Lowe. They had 5 children, among whom was Eddie Lowe, and I'm Eddie Lowe, Jr.
Hey, I have to applaud it. Was it somewhere in your biography that you're a humorist? Yes, he is. And just in case you haven't gotten so far, he also is a public speaker.
Oh, thank you.
And boy, is he doing a wonderful, wonderful job. And
it's so much more fun than heavy lifting.
that's true. That's true. That's what they say. We had a lot of people. We're filming here at Gurney's Inn overlooking the ocean, and we had a lot of people stopping by today and asking me what time you would be on, because they were saying, "Oh, I'm such a fan of his.
That's
I'm
nice.
reading his columns since years." Ginny Davis, one of them.
Yeah,
And,
I met her outside.
yes, and people coming and wanting to say hello. And this
It's
is
fun being Ed Lowe.
It is fun being at home, right? And it is also fun having you on the show.
Oh, thank you.
And I have to tell you, a friend of ours, a mutual friend, Paul Sidney from WLNG,
Yeah, I know him.
he is the one who kept on saying, "Ingrid, you know what? I really want to see," he watches the show all the time. He said, "I really
Wonderful.
want to see Ed Lowe." So,
I did a couple of comedy shows in Pocatac Hall in Orient, in the American Legion Hall in Southold, and in the Sag Harbor High School for a very good friend of mine, Jack Pryor, is the assistant principal of the middle school, of the elementary school in
Yes.
Sag Harbor. And we did this, Jack Simmons, who is a comedian raised in New Hyde Park, but he lives in Los Angeles. And then I put together a show called The Good Humored Men. Remember when comedy was clean and funny.
when it was
And,
clean especially.
Yeah. And so we've done shows out here, and we were on Paul's show twice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he gave us much more time than we deserved because we had such a great time talking.
That's our friend Paulie. That's
Yeah.
what he does, and he sure adores you.
We had a fabulous conversation. He's terrific.
Let's do a little bit about education.
Oh, well,
How did you feel about your education? Did you like it? Was it?
I had a stunning education, both in the Amityville elementary schools, and then I was a year younger than everyone in my class. And so the truth is 50% of the species matures physiologically before the other 50% by about a year.
Yep.
That leaves the other 50% intimidated. I'm a year younger than those people, so I'm doubly
I
intimidated.
got you. I didn't know
So
that.
I don't know how to talk to girls. When I'm in 7th grade, I'm 11 years old, I'm 4'10". So by 8th grade, I had decided to become a priest.
Because you didn't know how to talk to girls?
Yeah, celibacy is easy when you don't know what it isn't.
Yeah, that's right. And if you,
So that's how I know. For instance, we were talking earlier before we went on the air about Tom Hartman, Father Tom,
yes,
whose family business is down the street.
in Montauk, yep.
He and I went into, when the Diocese of Rockville Center was founded in 1956 or 57, the first bishop, Walter P. Kellenberg, decided he wanted to have a preparatory seminary of his own, not Cathedral High School in Brooklyn. So he founded St. Pius X Preparatory Seminary. Its opening year was 1958. I entered it in 1959 as a 9th grader. Tom did too.
Wow.
And we were together for 4 years. And he got the collar and I got the boot.
Yes, yes.
I was asked to seek my satisfaction in a trade other than the clergy.
I was wondering where the term recovering Irish Catholic came from.
Well, everybody's recovering from their prejudices of their ethnicity or their family. I mean, one family says manja, 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 and the other family says, you know, your cousin is in law school in 7th grade. What are you doing? With me, it was, you know, the Brooklyn Irish Catholic. There's 7 cardinal sins, 7 cardinal virtues, and 7 deadly sins. Everything has to be symmetrical. And the cardinal virtue that the Irish Catholics hold in highest regard is that of humility. And the deadly sin that they most revile is pride, the sin of pride.
I have it.
So what are we proudest of? Or humility. You know, I'm more humble than you are.
Are you getting it?
The other problem I had was it's 7 and 7. It should be 6 and 8 because I never had any problem with sloth. I mean, how would you even confess it?
Never.
Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I've done nothing.
Nothing wrong, and that's
I'm
why
not
we're
ashamed.
going to take a break, Ed, okay? We got to take a break. On the American Dream Show, Ed Lowe, L-O-W-E. Columnist, author, public speaker, humorist, if you want, and definitely the most awarded journalist I know. And you have so many awards that sometimes, to be honest, I was sitting over your biography and I thought, oh, Jesus, how am I going to do this?
Oh, God. I mean, most of them are for, you know, most of the plaques. I have stacks of these plaques in my house. I call them cutting boards.
Yeah.
Most of them are in lieu of a speaking fee.
Oh, my God, so many.
They throw you a plaque, you know, it costs them $5.50. It's,
is that what it is?
I'm going to have to buy a bigger house.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, you know, it's all very nice. What I like is the relationship I have with this reading audience. You know, celebrated status is there's something almost embarrassing about it, unless it's because of something that you do. If you're the guy who squeezes the Charmin and somebody says, well, I know you. Well, okay, you know me because I squeezed the Charmin on it. But if when people come up to you and say, I love your work. Wow. I mean, if I were making end tables, I would want to make the best end tables in the, you know, in the province. And to have somebody come up to me and say, I can spot your end tables in any furniture store on Long Island. That's a home run.
That is a home run.
And people connect. During the years from 1988 to 1992, I wrote a series called Fathering. Mm-hmm. Every other Saturday, part 2 of Newsday had a cover story about fathering, and then the alternate one is Madeline Blaze wrote Mothering. Mm-hmm. And during the course of that, 15 years ago, I lost a grandchild. I had a grandchild live for 13 days and die. He had something called transposition of the great vessels, and the best pediatric cardiologist in the world went after him, but they said basically they were trying to patch a bicycle tire through a keyhole. And so he died, and I had written about my daughter's pending marriage, her marriage, the wedding, the pregnancy, the birth, but the birth was imperiled. And so now I had painted myself into a corner. I had to write about the denouement. Mm-hmm. And I try to keep away from the realization emotionally of how many people are tied to what I do, because I'm afraid that one day I will look in the mirror and see an important person looking back, and that is really the road to ruin. You know, when you start thinking of yourself as hot stuff. Mm-hmm. But I got bags of letters, shopping bags of letters, cards, mass cards. There must be a forest in Israel planted for this Irish kid. His name was Kevin Williams Poland. There's more trees in Israel planted for that boy than for anybody else. Mass cards that you couldn't lift. They were tomes. And I spent 4.5 months every night till 4 o'clock in the morning answering 731 letters. One of them, a five-page, single-spaced, typewritten letter from a woman named Kathleen Smith from Brooklyn, who had 2 children, one after the other. I mean, the incidence of transposition of the great vessels is really, you know, the odds against it are just mammoth. She had 2 in a row. Both died. And she wound up adopting 2 Korean girls. But whatever connection it takes to sit down and share that story, 5 single-spaced typewritten pages, it is absolutely intimidating. I mean, you find out that you're a part of hundreds of thousands of families. And it was scary. I mean, it was, what an honor, you know, but nobody feels that he deserves that honor or she deserves that honor. It was it's been a hell of a ride. I mean, it's 35 years that I'm there as a writer, reporter, and now I'm with the Long Island Press, but what connections you make, and you don't even know.
You are, forgive me, public property.
Yeah.
He says this, you see how he says this, and this smile, this almost loving, yeah, yes. That's what we
It still beats heavy lifting.
That's what we become when we are in the limelight, when we are in the press. And not all of us are able to share honestly what actually happens in our lives. If we do, we open the door and people are able to enter, and that's what they did.
Well,
They
yeah.
entered your life. You let them
I also
in.
haven't done very much that I'm ashamed of, so.
That's what they say. They say that he is the hell of an honest guy. That's what they say. And you know what people also love about you? I talked to Ginny about it. I said, what do you like about him? And she said, I think he is humble. Now, he is a woman who never met you. Why would she say, I think he is humble? Isn't that the most amazing compliment?
Yeah, and as I said before, part of my affliction is I cherish humility and self-examination and self-awareness, really above all other virtues, because you can see when someone thinks, in the Irish have the expression, he thinks who he is.
Yeah.
And you can see that, and it's like a bad match. It's like wearing plaid and stripes, and the person doesn't see it. And I feel like that's the hound of heaven. That's what has been chasing me for all of this public life, is the pursuit of self-importance, or the pursuing something. Everyone I've seen, especially in my trade, and especially at the level of ascendancy, if you will, that I have, however mistakenly or accidentally achieved, where your picture's in the paper and they write ads about you and stuff like that. It's at that level that people become, they lose sight of the fact that, you're Eddie Lowe's kid. You're Dolores and Eddie Lowe's kid. That's who you are. And you came up in Hamilton Street in Amityville, and you're no better than anybody else. You just have a fun job.
Especially the last moment when we have to give up our spoon before we say goodbye. What did they say? The last shirt doesn't have any pockets, right? And then we are all equal. I can't believe we have to take another break, guys. I don't want to. Ed Lowe, the American Dream Man. On the show, here he is, at Gurney's Inn, overlooking the ocean. Ed, we were talking about we only can talk about so little, some of your writings, of your fun times, of your humor. But what I want to talk about now is this prestigious award, which you have received a few times. Long Island's most prestigious award, and most important, you are actually representing or presenting it. But you are one of the few people who actually are allowed to talk there, right? And give us...
Well, all the presenters, get 15 seconds or something, and you put a microphone in me and I'm going to have a good time.
You are the one who was getting then 25 seconds?
I had a radio program for 3 years. Basically, I was trying to amass a pile of money for tuition for my last child. My kids are 36, 35. Jed is going to be 24 in April, and Danny is 19, and so the last one is in college. And I wanted them all to be able to go through school without coming out in debt. So for the last one, I did this radio program for 3 years. I got up at 4:30 in the morning every day. Yeah, I who don't get up until 9:30.
Yeah.
And for the 3 years that the show was on the air, it won a Folio Award each of the 3 years. So I did a hat trick. And but Jackie Clement, who is the executive director of the organization, and in fact the executive director before her, asked me to be a presenter. And I'm one of the very few presenters. John Komanicki of the Long Island Business News is the other one, who is not from the electronic media, especially television, and therefore who is not really obscenely concerned about his skin or hair.
Appearance.
I mean, all of these people, all they can talk about is how they look. You know, and there's no substance. It's just, so I get to make fun and have a, I have a wonderful time there. I'm doing it. I'm a presenter this year, and you know, it's a fun time for me because I get to poke holes in balloons, which is, I'm iconoclastic. That's who I am. I'm just a punk.
And 3 years radio. When you first started,
scared to death.
I was just going to ask you, does it come natural? Did it come natural, or?
How could it come natural? You're talking to the end of a baseball bat in an empty room.
Yeah.
There's no one there.
Yeah.
So I mean, there you are talking to this bat, and there's no response. Nobody. You just have to keep talking.
Do you remember what?
I got to like it.
You got to like it.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the first show was about? No.
I remember being terrified, and I remember saying that I was terrified, and I remember saying that. It's going to take me a while to be competent, and right now, you know, ladies and fans, I am incompetent.
Incompetent.
And we went on from there. People started to call. It became, I garnered about 20 to 40,000 listeners over the 3 years, and I continually run into people who say I miss you on the radio, which is really heartwarming, but I don't miss. I do not miss 4:30 in the morning.
For your radio show, right?
3 in a row. Yeah.
And you were saying earlier, everybody expect we were the only station around.
Well, I was the only Long Island talk show around. I figured, if you're going to give an award to the best Long Island all talk radio show, why don't you give it to the only one?
Hey, who is as honest as Ed Lowe? Okay. I mean, I would have run with this thing and said, I got an award.
Oh yeah, I was a hero. No, I wasn't a hero. I was a. Listen, I can talk.
You were for many years, a syndicated columnist.
Yeah, but it's a hard sell. The vehicle that I invented is nonfiction short stories. Most of my work is nonfiction short stories. If you take the O. Henry story of The Gift of the Magi, where she has long hair and sells it to buy him a watch chain for his watch.
Yes.
And he has a watch that he pawns to buy her a comb for her long hair.
Yeah,
I have a suspicion that that's not fiction, that probably really happened. O. Henry heard it and wrote it. I write them, and the names are real, and the stories are real. And no one else in American journalism is permitted to do this, because some of the stories that I have written were 8 years old when I wrote them. No editor is going to say, I mean, what they say is, what is it about the phrase daily newspaper that you don't understand? But it's a wonderful story. I've written wonderful stories that people were reluctant to tell until after 8 years. And they're just wonderful stories, and they're memorable, and people keep them in their hearts and on their refrigerators until they yellow and crinkle and fade. It's a vehicle that doesn't exist elsewhere. So when the salesperson for the syndicate goes to the feature editor of the Chicago Sun Tribune, let's say, or Chicago Sun-Times, whatever it is, Chicago Tribune, and says, I have this great feature, this guy writes these great stories, the editor says, well, what is it like? Is it like Jimmy Breslin? No. Is it like Irma Bombeck? Well,
nope.
Some stories remind you of Irma Bombeck because some of them are funny, but some of them make you cry. Well, is it political? No. Republican, conservative, Democrat? No, no. Advice column? No. Sports? No. Where am I going to put it? I don't know. It's great stories. I got a newspaper full of great stories. So it's a hard sell. And I was syndicated by the largest syndicate in the world, United Features, United Media. You know, Garfield, Peanuts, at the time, Jack Anderson, Miss Manners. But the salespeople couldn't figure out how to sell it. And eventually you go into the bottom of the attaché case, and out comes Garfield. So I was a success wherever they placed me. I was, in fact, in the Albany Knickerbocker Times-Union in 6 months, I was the best read feature they ever had.
See?
But you can't sell it because you can't categorize it because there's no category. I always wanted to be unique. The problem with unique is that the root word is one and you're alone.
I understand you so well, and I agree. It is a hard sell. I hear it over and over again when I am on the air. People are calling in and they're saying, "Why did nobody ever put you on national? My God, you are so charming, etc., etc." I'm a hard sell.
I have to agree with that.
You don't understand, because I am personally responsible for the Second War. After all, my accent is German. So I figured I'm gonna make you laugh.
Oh, you did. Thank you.
It's not that I don't know how to do those things. Yes, I do.
Laughter is the best of everything.
What's the future going to bring us? Give us a few minutes about what is on.
Well, I have a
next.
5-year contract with the Long Island Press to do 1 column a week, which is basically the way when I worked with Newsday, I used to take my vacation. I used to, in the summer, I used to do 1 column a week, and for 9 or 10 months a year, I did 3. Now I don't even understand how I could have done 3, but in the meantime, I'm trying to patch together a novel that's been in my head for 33 or 34 years about the people who work the waters of Long Island. I remember characters like Donnie Ames and the Lesters who were out here, Hall Sainers. I went eeling in Lake Montauk with Donald Ames, who was originally from Lindenhurst and has been out here. I think he's now a custodian in a school in Amagansett. And all the pirates from West Sayville who were night clammers, poachers, and high-speed boats, black boats, and ultimately they ran out of clams and they moved on to a more lucrative form of contraband, and they either got caught up in or caught at it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, people shooting at each other for lobster pots on the North Shore. There's all this rich stuff that no one's really ever exploited to my satisfaction. All of these waterfront saloons, all of these characters. I've lived the best life, and I want to get some of it down on paper.
And that's what he's going to do. That's what he's going to do in the future. Thank you so much for watching. We will have him back.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Dreams of freedom, to have the choice to be what we can be, finding success you thought couldn't be yours, defying the odds and opening doors. Now anything in life is possible. Land of opportunity.